Hello, and welcome back to London. In this video, I thought I'd talk about something that I don't actually shoot a lot of anymore, but I used to shoot it all the time. That's colour. I've made a video on shooting in black and white, and what to do and what to look at when shooting in black and white, but what about colour? There's a lot of things to capture when you're doing colour, and there's actually more things to consider. So, some would consider it harder than shooting in black and white. I don't see it like that. But there's tons of things you can do and tons of things that you should consider when photographing in colour to make your shots more interesting than the obvious. I'm here because this is quite a colourful area. This is Tower Bridge, the most colourful bridge in London, and I'm based around this area anyway, so it's a nice easy place for me to come to start my walk. And the first thing I think we should look at is photographing primary colours. You've got the blues, the reds, the yellows, all of those different bold colours you see a lot of, because it instantly draws your eye to something. If you've got big splashes of blue and red, instantly your eye is drawn to it. The different hues of, magentas and all that sort of stuff, way more subtle. So having the big bold colours like the blue of the bridge or the blue of this thing that I was hiding behind, it can create a really eye-catching, striking image, especially if someone's silhouetted up against it. We're going to explore this area and see just what we can capture involving primary colours and just outlandish, bold, bright colour. I love shooting Tower Bridge and pigeons up against it. They fly around it all the time. And although the blues of the bridge don't exactly contrast with the blues of the sky when you have a sunny day, what does is the whites and the reds in the bridge. So being able to position and frame a subject, i.e. a pigeon, around the reds and the whites, and the pigeon being a black silhouette in the sky, if it's in a good position with its wings are out, then it can create quite a nice aesthetic image. Also, and I've talked about this in a previous video when I was talking about dull light, if you've got people walking across the bridge, and this is quite a popular bridge to walk across, tourists get this confused with London Bridge, and it's not, it's Tower Bridge, but you get the people walking across, and sometimes they will crest and just peek their heads over to see what's underneath. And that, again, is a nice bit of contrast between the blues, being one of the primary colours, and someone silhouetted against it. So although the bridge and the sky are not contrasting with each other, the subject and the bridge is contrasting with each other. And when all else fails about pigeons, capture a London bus going across. The red mixed with the blue. Nice bit of contrast. Very typical tourist shot. But at the same time, why not? You don't really see the blues of the bridge when you're actually on it. So coming off St Katharine's Dock sort of side and capturing it, shooting at it, it's quite nice. I want someone to contrast with that blue of the lift shaft on Tower Bridge. Contrast is a bit different with colour than it is with black and white, because you have to think of what colours complement each other. There's this colour wheel. When you're talking about colour theory, it's this colour wheel. I'll put it on screen. And different colours complement better with different things. For example, cyan complements really, really well with orange, and that's why you've got the teal and cyan-y colours mixed with orange, and it always looks pleasing. If you capture this bridge in golden hour with the lighter blues that you're seeing, it can really complement each other really nicely. That door over there is a darker blue, which means I would contrast it with a darker orange. So that's what I'm looking for. Something that complements each other well. So basically with the colour wheel, you basically want to go direct opposite. So draw a line from the colour you're seeing to the other side of the wheel in a straight line, and that is your direct contrast. Dark blue to dark orange. Cyan, lighter orange. So there's all these sorts of things that you've got to pay attention to when you're photographing colour. And color contrast and making sure your colors complement each other is a massive deal, especially when capturing a larger scene. Otherwise, you'll get too much of one color or not enough of another. You need to have a balance there. Reflections. I absolutely love reflections. Just over there, it's actually quite a nice one. Although it's not a bright color, it's still a nice color because the sun's hitting the wall, which is illuminating the reflection even more and brings out that pop of peach that the walls are painted with. Get someone contrasted or even silhouetted against that as they're walking through into the light works quite well. So there's a person coming. Let's see, they're in black. That could work. Maybe. It's dark and light. It's a nice mix. I'd wait again to see if I can get something. So these flowers are obviously quite nice. They're being lit well. Everything around it's in shadow. And if you really expose for the shadows rather than the highlights, you get quite nice contrast, natural contrast with the light and shadow. That's something no matter whether you're shooting in color or black and white, you should really think of. What contrasts well, not just with colors, but with light and shadow, because it always makes your images more interesting than a really flat, boring image, which is why people love shooting in sunlight rather than grey and flat conditions, because you get a lot more of that natural contrast. That frame though is quite nice. Just capturing someone going past it as they come out of the shadow into the light or going from the light into the shadow. There's a pop of colour against quite a bland brick wall and a human element within it as well, which is quite nice. So when I was talking about colour contrast a little while ago, I gave a very obvious example. Blues obviously contrast with reds and oranges. That's just natural, and they work well together. Primary colours are usually the easier ones to think about what contrasts with one another, but when it gets to the mixed colours and the different shades, that's when you need to start thinking a bit more. So cyans work better with oranges and dark blues work better with darker reds and browns. When it comes to green though, what do you think green contrasts with? The greens of the foliage behind me, the greens of my shirt. That's a mixed colour. What contrasts well with green? Well, on the colour wheel, it's actually magenta. And you can sort of see it when you think about it, but that's maybe not the first thing that would come to your head. Magenta contrasting with green, and that is the most natural contrast that you can get. So it's all about looking at that colour wheel, thinking to yourself what would go well with that colour. And if you know that colour theory, then it'll work quite nicely for you. It's just a really big thing to think about, and something that you should really think about when you're photographing colour over everything else. So I love using light in all of my work, and with colour it's no different. Using the shadow and the light as a natural contrast like I mentioned earlier, and then capturing someone in a bold colour in that pocket of light can just create a nice little scene. Just now I photographed someone just having some coffee, but the light was hitting them really nice. And then I found this little sliver of light here that as people walk past you can see colour really well. So I need someone in a bright colour. Lovely bit of colour here too. The red chairs really hitting the light nice with the sun. And actually, something that I'm actually doing a little project on. It's called Sam's Study of Chairs. That's the working title anyway. And it's just because I seem to go around and photograph chairs an awful lot, just on their own. Whether they're in the light, whether they look run down and used and worn and stuff like that. I feel they can tell such a story when they're just out and about, and they look really aesthetic to me. Anyway, so I've never been one for saying that street photography needs to incorporate people in any way. It can have the human element as well, just anything about the everyday life, and that is something that I've been photographing and my eyes always drawn to. So over the next couple of years, I will be photographing Sam's Study of Chairs, hoping to get something put together as a little collection, a little project, and maybe I can get some prints out when the project's over, a little book put together, who knows. But I tend to photograph a lot of them. You can let me know what you think of these chair pictures that I've just taken right here. So this features colour quite nicely as well. You've got the shape of the light on this pillar, you've got framing on the red, and as people walk past, they're silhouetted. So quite interesting in terms of the shots you can get with the pop of colour against what is otherwise pretty monochrome, with the white building in the background and the single colour pillars. You just got that pop of red and then the silhouette as the human element. I know I was here really recently, but when the sun's shining and we're talking about colour, you can't not come to these stairs along the South Bank. We're right by the South Bank Centre, if you don't know where this is, just down from it. There's the Royal Festival Hall over there, and right over there is the actual riverfront. These stairs, though, are crazy for getting people walking through it. Absolute great photograph. That guy silhouetted absolutely perfectly against the light at the top of those stairs. Really nice to photograph, actually. And the idea is, as the sun moves around, as long as it's high enough, you've got the harsh shadow at the top, and you just want to capture someone in that little bit right at the top. And yeah, it looks good. And obviously work the scene, like I mentioned last time I was here, and just try different angles, try and get something a bit more unique, because there's tons that you can photograph here. I think if I remember rightly, this is what I was capturing last time I was here, from above, and then as people came around the corner there, you saw their shadow just at this bit. This is the photo from that bit of the video, and I think it looks pretty cool. You can see the person reaching out to hold onto the wall as they're going down the stairs, but you can get some nice shape, and again, it's so bright, isn't it, that you can capture it really easily. It's nice to see that the sculptures are still here as well. Nice bit of artsy installations. You can try and get something unique with that as well. Great area to photograph, really is. I've been photographing around the South Bank Centre for a little while because there's little pops of colour pretty much everywhere, and I don't know what sort of photos I've got yet, but it's a lovely area to shoot. But I was thinking to myself as I was walking around, this is only really a place that I'd shoot in the spring, and that's all because of the different styles of lighting you get. In the summer, the light's way too harsh in this area and everything's really bright. In the spring, sun's a little bit lower in the sky, but not so low like it is in winter, where the sun wouldn't even crest the building behind me. it's all about that. You've got to really pay attention to what your lighting conditions are like and work with different seasons. For example, in the summer, people are going to be more likely to be wearing brighter colors, whereas in the winter, you're going to have a lot of darker coats and people wearing monochromatic colors. And you got to just work with that. So in the winter, for me, I tend to photograph a colorful background and a darker subject. Whereas in the summer, you've got the option to work with a bit of both, really. You can silhouette a subject against a bright colored background like I did with those yellow stairs, or you can photograph a really colorful subject against a monochromatic background to give them a little pop of color and to stand out in a scene. It works really well like that. And then spring, autumn, a bit of both again. So work with that and play to the strengths of the seasons and the lighting conditions you've got. So this is one of the places that I recommend people to come if they're really interested in colour and more of a grungy side of things. This is Leek Street, just outside of Waterloo Station. And you've got tons of different colour here because it's just a tunnel full of graffiti. And you can capture all sorts of stuff whilst walking down. And some of the art pieces here are really, really cool. So Leek Street, you may have noticed, no pictures from there. I never take anything in Leek Street, really. The only one I ever got was during COVID, and that's because it was quieter. Looks like this. This is very different to my style of photography now. My style is very like minimal now in comparison to what photos you would get in that area. But it's always a good place if you like texture and, you know, a bit of grunge to your images, and if you're shooting in color. But yeah, that's about it, I think. That's all I've got to say about color. You may notice I'm shooting more and more black and white, but it doesn't mean that I will stop shooting color entirely. I do like it. There is definitely a purpose of it. And yeah, you can get some really good shots. It's always good to shoot in RAW so you can see both options, because some photos might look good in color in person, but will actually edit up really nice in black and white. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next week for another video. Hopefully the sun stays around for it.